There's something strange about how we think about clean water. Most people assume that making dirty water safe requires complex filters, expensive systems, or advanced technology. Something engineered, something modern, something that looks complicated. And yet there's a simple black powder cheap, widely available, and used for decades that can remove impurities from water, in a way that feels almost too simple to be real. It doesn't look advanced. It doesn't feel like technology. And because of that, most people completely underestimate it. Here's what's interesting. If you look at how water filtration is marketed today, everything is about layers of technology. Multi-stage filters, reverse osmosis systems, UV purification, stainless steel units, clean branding, high prices. It gives the impression that without those systems, clean water isn't really possible. But hidden behind all of that is something much simpler. Something that doesn't rely on electricity, doesn't require complex installation, and doesn't need constant replacement of expensive components. And the strange part is, this isn't new. It's not a recent invention. It's not experimental. It's been studied, used, and understood for a long time. So why do most people never think of it as a real solution? Why does it feel like a hack instead of something reliable? And why do people who try it sometimes say, yeah, it didn't really work? Because just like the last topic, the problem isn't the method. It's how people use it and what they expect from it. To understand why this works, and you have to understand what this black powder actually is, and more importantly, what makes it different from everything else people use to clean water. Because this isn't just filtering, it's something else entirely. To understand why this black powder works, you first need to understand something most people confuse: filtering versus adsorption. When people think of cleaning water, they imagine a filter, something that blocks dirt, traps particles, lets clean water pass through. That's filtration, and it works, but only for things that are large enough to be physically stopped: dust, sediment, visible impurities. But here's the problem. Some of the most dangerous things in water are too small to be filtered like that. Chemicals, odors, toxins, even certain dissolved compounds, they don't just get stuck, they pass right through. This is where this black powder works completely differently, because it doesn't just filter, it adsorbs. And adsorption is not the same as absorption. Absorption is when something soaks into another material like a sponge soaking up water. But adsorption happens on the surface. At a microscopic level, this black powder is not solid the way it looks. It's full of millions of tiny pores, invisible cavities, tunnels, spaces within spaces. If you could zoom in far enough, you'd see that a single gram of this material has a surface area so massive, it can cover an entire room. Now imagine contaminated water passing over that surface. Instead of just flowing through, molecules begin to stick to it. Not randomly, but because of natural forces, tiny electrical attractions at the molecular level. Toxins, chemicals, odor-causing compounds. They get pulled toward the surface and held there, almost like magnets, but on a microscopic scale. So instead of trying to block impurities, this material captures them. It pulls them out of the water and traps them on its surface. And this is why it's so effective. Because it targets the things that normal filters miss. Things you can't see, things you can't taste immediately, but things that still affect the quality of water. This black powder is called activated charcoal or activated carbon, and once it's processed properly, becomes one of the most powerful natural adsorbents we have. That's why it's used in water filters, air purification systems, medical treatments, even emergency toxin removal. But here's the part most people don't realize. Just because something works doesn't mean people use it correctly. And when it comes to activated charcoal, small mistakes completely destroy its effectiveness, which is exactly why some people try it and walk away thinking it didn't really do anything. The biggest reason people fail with this is not because it doesn't work, it's because they misunderstand what it's actually supposed to do. The first mistake is expecting instant visible results. People use this black powder once, look at the water and think, it looks the same, so nothing changed. But that's not how adsorption works. This process targets things you often can't see: chemicals, odors, dissolved impurities. So visually, the water might look identical, even though its quality has changed significantly. The second mistake is using the wrong form. Not all charcoal is the same. Regular charcoal, the kind used for grilling, doesn't have the same internal structure. It hasn't been processed to create that massive surface area. Activated charcoal is specifically treated to open up millions of microscopic pores. Without that structure, the entire mechanism fails. So using the wrong type is like trying to filter water with a rock instead of a sponge. It might look similar, but it won't do the job. The third mistake is contact time. This is critical. For adsorption to work, the water needs enough time to interact with the surface. If water passes too quickly, there's no time for those molecular attractions to happen. That's why proper filters are designed to slow the flow, to maximize contact, to give the process time to work. If you just pour water over it quickly and expect instant purification, you're skipping the part that actually makes it effective. And finally, saturation. Activated charcoal doesn't last forever. Over time, those tiny pores fill up, the surface becomes occupied, and once that happens, it stops being effective, not because it's broken, but because it's already done its job. That's why it needs to be replaced or refreshed after extended use. But when it's used correctly, something interesting happens. You get a simple, low-cost material that can remove impurities in a way most people associate with expensive systems. No electricity, no complex setup, no aggressive chemicals, just a material designed at a microscopic level to trap what you don't want in your water. And that's why it's used in everything from basic home filters to large-scale purification systems. But here's the bigger picture. This isn't just about water. It's about how often simple, effective solutions get overlooked because they don't look impressive, they don't feel advanced, and they don't match what people expect a real solution to look like. So they get ignored until someone takes the time to understand how they actually work. If this video gave you a new way to think about something as basic as clean water, do two things. Hit like so more people can find it, and subscribe, because this channel is all about simple ideas that work, even when most people overlook them.